Today, we're talking about tips for the month of December if you are planning to submit applications to top business schools in January. Those deadlines are in the first 2 weeks of January, and there's a lot to get done. Typically, the monthly tips come from one person at Stratus, but you've probably heard about our team-based process. And this month, my teammates will be sharing their thoughts on topics such as the importance of putting together goals, revamping your resume, working with your recommenders, and writing your essays, starting with school research, the importance of incorporating your answers both in short answers and in essays, as well as having independent review of your essays. And that first tip is make sure that you have a school list that reflects where you are in this process and whether or not you want to be in business school next year. So I typically say, hey, apply to your dream school. Make sure to have some stretch schools, some target schools, and possibly even some likely schools, especially if you know that you absolutely want to be in an MBA program next fall.
I'm going to talk about post-MBA goals. So one of the things to keep in mind is specificity equals credibility. So you could say, for example, that your goal was to work in tech at a company like Amazon. But Amazon is such a ginormous corporation and there's so many facets to it. So does that mean you're interested in, Amazon Web Services? Are you interested in the grocery division? And if you can go one level deeper and really try to say something about what specific area you want to be working in, and perhaps connect that to something in your story. So for example, if you're interested in Amazon and you want to work in the grocery division and you have something in your background where you have some CPG experience, that's a way to connect the dots. And do business schools expect you to absolutely do this? Are they going to check and see when you interview if you end up interviewing in consulting? No. But you need to show the schools that you've done the research and you've thought through how your career journey could unfold. And then as you learn more and you go through the program, you may change your mind, but the process of how you think through your career goals, you'll show them that you know how to do that and you'll be ready to thrive in the recruiting and in the MBA program.
So letters of recommendation can feel a little scary to applicants because it's really the one part of your application that you're completely outsourcing to someone else, and you're probably not going to get to see what it looks like. However, there are ways that you can help prepare your recommenders so that you can have a little bit of influence and help them shape what that ultimately is going to look like. So first, what you want to do is you want to take some time to synthesize all the information that your recommenders are going to need and help put something together so that they will have all of that in one place. You may also want to share with them how you've differentiated yourself from your peers, or maybe even remind them of something that they said in a review that was particularly good, like you were in the top 10% of folks that they've ever worked with in your tenure. So no matter what school you're applying to, your recommenders are probably going to be asked about a time that they provided feedback to you and how that went. So when you're thinking of examples, think about times where you really showed some growth after that feedback. You'll want to structure this out by first stating what the feedback was. Then you can say how you handled that feedback in the moment. Then you can say how you handled the feedback, a few weeks later and how you'd integrated it. And now at this point, many months later, perhaps, you could say how you've turned this into a real core competency or even a strength. And remember, your recommenders are part of your team and they want to see you succeed.
While your essay should absolutely reflect your personal voice, so you don't want to have anybody inline edit your essay too strongly, you should absolutely get reviewers to look at your essay who are both from the business world and also not from the business world, because they'll each have a unique perspective. Those who are not in the business world will be able to read your essay to make sure that it does not have too much jargon and makes sense to someone who has perhaps way less context than you and your colleagues have around you. Most importantly though, both reviewers can help ensure you, one, actually answered the question, because sometimes MBA candidates can have amazing stories, super engaging, but they're not actually answering the question directly because in their head they see the connection, but an external reviewer might not see it. So remember, make sure you answer the question. 2, an outside reviewer can help make sure that your points are coming across, because hopefully they really know you and they can gauge whether or not you're effectively describing with anecdotes what it is that you really bring to the table. And third, if you enable them to give you really honest feedback, they can help you gauge if your stories are really coming across as impactful as you think they are. Because sometimes something that feels like a really big lift for us personally or emotionally may not translate to as big a deal to other people reading your story. So external reviewers can be a really good reality check for whether or not this is really the best way to highlight what you bring to the table.
So don't forget about the short answer part of the applications. These are the questions they ask you in the application that are not the main essays and also not the biographical information. So sometimes they're not all that short. Like Stanford has some short answers that are longer than some schools' full essays. You also don't want to tackle these at the last minute, because then you're going to lose a chance to share maybe some valuable aspect of your background or experience that you haven't shared in other parts of the application. And to that end, you also don't want to overlap content completely that you already have shared in your essays or in your resume.
Our Stratus clients often ask us, what's the best way to acknowledge the time, the energy, and the effort that those letter writers made on their behalf? We recommend following up with each one individually with a personalized letter. The best thing is a handwritten note. Those are so rare these days, and recommenders really enjoy getting them. If you work in an office or you know the home address of the person, that's the way to go. You can either deliver it by hand to their desk or send it through the mail. If you work virtually, then of course an email letter is fine. Some clients feel they have very close relationships with those writers, so they want to take it one step further. If that's the case with you, feel free to get a small token of appreciation. Maybe it's a gift card to their favorite coffee shop or a local restaurant that's near the office, or maybe even their favorite bottle of wine. Whatever works best for you. But don't leave it at that. Make sure that you follow up with those people. These people have taken the time to write letters on your behalf. They're vested in you, they're vested in the process, and they want to know the outcome. So be sure that you update them. Hopefully you'll have great news to share, but even if your news is disappointing, you want to share that with those letter writers so they know the outcome of the process.
During the interview, you need to be an expert about yourself and your history. This may sound obvious, but many miss the fact that you have to not only know the rote facts as listed on your resume, but you also have to be prepared to answer what your thought process was along the way, particularly as you switch from one job to another, or even as you chose your university, your major. All of those sorts of things are important, the behavioral aspects of your choices along the way. The interviewers can see what you did on your resume, so you need to be prepared to discuss the why, as well as any lessons learned along the way.